Welcome to your May 30th, 2025 briefing on Homeland Intelligence Report. I first want to apologize for not having a report yesterday. I set the goal of doing this every weekday. However, I had a long outdoor training yesterday and I was smoked by the time I got home. Now, for today's topics, we will talk about the threat to the U.S. should Israel begin large-scale strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, the death of former NYPD Commissioner Bernard Kerik, and some of my own reflections on the 5-year anniversary of the 2020 Floyd riots. In this and every episode, we strive to provide you with brief, relevant intelligence information free of conspiracy theories and unvetted analysis, content that allows the mature, educated American to make good decisions regarding the state of the world and threats to the homeland. This comes curated for you by an active, supervisory rank law enforcement officer with extensive experience in critical incident management, tactical operations, and public order. I am also a former infantry non-commissioned officer decorated in combat during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and a former U.S. government contract staff member who specialized in intelligence and low visibility, high-threat security. I have significant formal education as well as practical experience in all phases of the intelligence cycle. Through these lenses, I endeavor to read between the lines for you, the consumer, to help you form your own well-informed outlook on the world. No currently classified information will be shared on this channel ever, period. I want to be upfront with you. I use an AI voice in this because using my own voice would require that I clear my activities through my agency's PIO and attorneys. As always, we ask that if you are looking for a worthy organization to include in your charitable giving, please consider the Third Option Foundation. This organization works quietly to support the men and women of the CIA's Special Activities Division and honor the fallen operators whose names most Americans will never, and many times can never, know. You can make your tax-deductible donations and learn more at www.thirdoptionfoundation.org. As tensions between Israel and Iran continue to escalate over Tehran's nuclear ambitions, the possibility of a direct Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear infrastructure is no longer a distant scenario. It's an increasingly likely flashpoint. But what would such a strike mean for the United States homeland? The answer isn't simple, but it is serious. In the hours and days following an Israeli offensive, we would enter a heightened domestic threat window. Iran has a history of using global proxy networks, chief among them Hezbollah and the IRGC Quds Force, to strike back indirectly. While most of Hezbollah's infrastructure is based in the Middle East and Latin America, there is precedent for activity and surveillance inside the U.S. 2 operatives were arrested in 2017 for casing targets in New York and Michigan. If the United States is seen as complicit in the Israeli operation, whether through intelligence sharing, airspace use, or refueling, the threat to our homeland becomes more than theoretical. Beyond direct proxies, there's also the risk of lone actors, individuals radicalized by Shia extremist propaganda or inspired by retaliation narratives, taking matters into their own hands. These threats are difficult to preempt and may target soft locations like synagogues, Jewish community centers, or critical infrastructure. On the cyber front, the IRGC has significant capability and past behavior to suggest they could go after water systems, hospitals, or transit networks with disruptive, though likely non-lethal, attacks. Now, we've already seen Iranian cyber campaigns hit U.S. financial institutions and municipal systems. They may not shut down the grid, but they can sow chaos, degrade confidence, and force reactive security measures. Medium to long term, we also need to consider indirect tools. Iran is a master of asymmetric warfare and information operations. Disinformation campaigns could attempt to drive wedges in U.S. society, exploiting our political divisions, inflaming protest movements, and portraying the government as beholden to foreign interests. There's also the possibility, however slim, of Tehran leveraging its ties to transnational crime networks, particularly in Latin America, to move operatives or materials closer to our southern border. Most concerning would be a low probability, high consequence event, a proxy bombing, hostage taking, or critical infrastructure strike designed to project power without crossing a conventional red line. So, what should the average listener and law enforcement be alert to? Increased online chatter among Shia extremist networks, unusual financial transactions tied to known Iranian-linked fronts, suspicious surveillance activity near Jewish, Israeli, or U.S. government sites, cyber disruptions targeting municipalities or utilities, and any escalation in Middle Eastern demonstrations that suddenly shift in tone or become unusually well-funded or organized. Let me be clear, this is not a call for panic, it's a call for preparation. Iran's priority, even after an Israeli strike, will likely be managing internal cohesion and regional optics. But history shows us that Iran's proxies and sympathizers can reach far beyond the Middle East and have when provoked. As always, Homeland resilience depends on vigilance, not just from government agencies, but from citizens who understand the threat and refuse to be caught flat-footed. I say this all the time, but if you are a law enforcement officer, you should never, ever leave home unarmed unless your plan is to go out and tie one on. You should have a phone, your credentials, a firearm you can fight with, and a tourniquet. I really enjoy the Snakestaff Systems tourniquets. They're small and easy in the pocket, have a fairly intuitive locking system, and have a built-in chem light to crack to mark a casualty in low-no light. I'm doing some looking around for something to carry in addition to my badge to better mark myself for responding law enforcement in public. I've seen the Visi Blue products online with the super thin beanies and pull down arm sleeves, and they're interesting to me. I just haven't pulled the pin on getting some to try. The issue is my badge is clipped inside my strong side pocket because my flashlight is clipped inside my weak hand pocket. So my badge wouldn't come out unless and until I needed to identify myself beyond shouting, "Police!" Bernard Kerik, the former New York City Police Commissioner, renowned for his leadership during the September 11th attacks, passed away on May 29th, 2025, at the age of 69. His death followed a private battle with a cardiac-related illness, during which he had been hospitalized earlier in the month. Born in Newark, New Jersey in 1955, Kerik enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1974, serving as a military policeman in South Korea. After his military service, he joined the New York City Police Department, NYPD, in 1986, where he earned over 30 medals for excellent, meritorious, and heroic service, including the department's Medal for Valor. He was appointed the commissioner of the New York Police Department in 2000 by then Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Kerik's tenure as police commissioner was marked by the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. He was at the forefront of the city's emergency response, coordinating efforts amidst unprecedented chaos. His leadership during this crisis earned him national recognition and accolades, including an honorary appointment as Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, CBE, by Queen Elizabeth II. In 2003, Kerik was appointed as the interim Interior Minister of Iraq under the Coalition Provisional Authority, tasked with rebuilding the country's police and security forces. However, his career faced setbacks when he withdrew his 2004 nomination to lead the Department of Homeland Security, citing the employment of an undocumented worker as a nanny. Subsequent investigations revealed ethical violations, leading to his 2009 guilty plea on 8 federal felony charges, including tax fraud and making false statements. He served 3 years in federal prison and was released in 2013. In 2020, President Donald Trump granted him a full pardon. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. A later career marked by issues to be certain. However, his leadership of the NYPD post 9/11 is worthy of mention. Also, I don't care what your views are on the British monarchy. Being knighted by Queen Elizabeth would be absolutely badass. I was a big fan of hers. She was my kind of person, the kind of person who, no matter what, acted like they'd been there before. That's a big thing I talk to my officers about. Act like you've been there before. She was an absolute class act. And again, being knighted by itself would be cool, but by Queen Elizabeth would be extra humbling. 5 years ago, tomorrow, the George Floyd riots really accelerated nationally. The night of the 28th will forever be marked in law enforcement history as the night the brave men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department and their mutual aid partners were ordered to give up the 3rd Precinct station. I recall that night vividly as I had friends on the roof there when the order was given. On the 29th, which was a Friday, Lake Street burned. Entire blocks worth of businesses were torched, and there was incredible violence. I was busy the night of the 29th because the city in which I worked was slated to have a protest the next day, the 30th. It started out with a large number of people marching in the late morning, but by early evening, it had devolved into a full-blown riot. We worked very hard that day and well into the early morning hours on the 31st. I was so incredibly proud of my partners that night. We launched an absolute ton of munitions and learned a lot of lessons about movement under munitions rather than letting the munitions do the work for us. It's interesting about these sentinel events in law enforcement. You learn a ton about your procedures, tactics, equipment, and people, but then you can't know when, if ever, you'll be able to put those lessons to the test again. I want to pressure test 5 years of preparation for the next one. But with that comes everything else that goes along with massive, nationwide, violent unrest. I feel like this summer is the summer for it, at least since 2020. I feel like there are a lot of combustible materials left unattended, to use an analogy from our firefighter friends. Who knows? Vote below on Spotify and X. Do you think there will widespread violent unrest this summer in the United States? As always, I thank you for listening. This is a passion project for me, and I really enjoy taking a hobby of mine, which is staying current on events through these lenses and turning it more public-facing. As always, be well and be well informed.